I'm Katie from Romence Gardens. Thanks for tuning into our channel. Today we're going to talk about planting bulbs outside in the ground, but instead of planting individual bulbs in rows and clumps, we're going to talk about how you can do sort of a lasagna planting or a layering of bulbs to get almost a bouquet effect. So to start with, let me just give you a couple of examples. As I talked about in the earlier video with bulbs, in my house, I'm going to be working with a lot of oranges and yellows. So today I have 3 bulbs that would be part of my lasagna planter. I'm going to be working with some Bourbon Street tulips, some Gypsy Princess hyacinths, and then I've got some of these Scarlet O'Hara daffodils. Now, what I need you to do is use your imagination a little bit, and you're going to assume that this is the hole that we're digging outside. So you can see there's kind of a little bit of a clear area here. And this, at the top of this pot would actually be the top of the ground. So what we're gonna be doing is digging a hole, and this is how we'd be planting. So again, with the magic of TV and videos, we are showing you this through this magical clear pot. So as you can see, what we did is we used our imagination to try and show you how you would plant this in the ground. Unfortunately, it's a little crummy here in Michigan and a little cold, and I'm not used to it yet. So I said, we're doing this inside where I can be warm. So again, imagine that we're digging a hole. Now, as we talked about in the bulb class, most bulbs are going to be anywhere from 2 to 6 inches long. And when you plant a bulb, you want to make sure that it goes at least 3 times of the height down. Now, I like to do my bulbs a little bit deeper just because, again, where we are, I find that it just makes sure that they make it through the winter really well. So again, today we're going to be working with these 3 bulbs to layer up and do a lasagna planting. Now, remember that most of these bulbs are going to be blooming what's considered mid-spring. They're going to have a little bit of overlap time, like your daffodils and your hyacinths will start blooming a little bit before your tulips, but we're okay with that because it kind of does it almost like a bouquet of flowers will slowly open up. So the first thing I want to do is take my tallest and my largest bulbs, which are going to be my daffodils. Remember, bulbs are snotty, always put their little noses in the air, and we're going to go ahead and we're basically going to plant our daffodils. And if I were doing a hole this large, I would be doing a lot of daffodils. But ideally, these daffodils are gonna come right around the edges. You can put a couple in the middles here if you want. But mainly, I'm gonna be going around the edge of this hole. And so they are gonna go all the way around. And you can see how I'm just nicely placing them in there. If I wanted to do a couple more, I could to make it a little fuller. But ideally, this is the perfect amount for this hole size that we have. Once I've done that, then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to put soil at least a couple of inches over the top of my daffodils. So again, you'd be backfilling the hole to ensure that all your daffodils are covered, and we'll just lightly press that down. Now we're gonna move to our second bulb. So the second bulb I've chosen is the Bourbon Street tulip. So with the tulip, we talked about in our bulb class how they have kind of a flat side and they have kind of a little bit of a booty. So what I like to do is I like all the flat stomachs to kind of be facing toward the inside of the hole. Now what I do is, you can see I'm gonna go just slightly in from where I planted those daffodils. And I'm going to put all of these flat stomach sides facing toward the center of the hole. And I wanna fill this whole center area with as many tulips as I can. I'm gonna put one in the middle there, and I'm gonna kind of just make sure that this whole area has got a nice even amount of tulips. When the tulips grow out, actually what happens is they kind of hold themselves together. So again, our tulips are a little bit taller. We're gonna have our daffodils, and they're actually gonna layer up and bloom together. And last but not least, we're going to cover those up again. And I'm gonna get just a little more soil. So again, we're backfilling the hole to ensure that we've got a couple inches of soil between each layer, but you can still see that I'm quite deep, and it's deep enough that we're gonna be able to make sure that these bulbs have enough snow and everything over them so that they are nice and nestled in for winter, and their roots are gonna grow down to keep water pulling to the bulb to ensure that it's all set for the season. Now with the hyacinths, I'm actually picking kind of a middle ground. To be really honest, there's not a true rhyme or reason on how you have to do this. I just try and place bulbs where there isn't any other bulbs underneath it so that they're kind of growing together. So I like my hyacinths to be just kind of just inside about where that is. And then I'm gonna go ahead and fill the rest of this up with soil. So this then, when it comes up in the spring, you're gonna have your hyacinths and your daffodils, and then eventually your tulips will come up in the center and you'll have just this beautiful bouquet of mixed bulbs. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email us at support@romencegardens.com. We can always answer some questions for you. And I wanted to go through just a couple option ideas. So this first one, you can see we're working with oranges and yellows. So the coolest thing about Scarlet O'Hara is the fun little orange nose. It goes perfectly with my orange bourbon tulips. And then I have a little softer yellow of the hyacinth. So again, I'm sort of working in the same color scheme, but I'm playing off little lighting and a little bit of texture that are different. Another really good favorite one of mine is going to be, we have a daffodil that is called Stainless. Now Stainless is a little bit taller. It can get up to 24 inches tall. So I probably would be going ahead and you could put that in either level, but I like to put the tallest ones usually the deepest in the hole. So where we put our daffodils, we have our beautiful white Stainless. And then I absolutely love this tulip. This is Pretty Princess, which is basically kind of hot pink and maroon. And then I'm gonna mix it with a really cool hot pink hyacinth. So again, I've got a little lightning with the white daffodil, but then I'm going into these really vibrant colors with my tulips and my hyacinths. That's one of my absolute favorites. Something a little different. This tulip looks a lot like the Pretty Princess, but this guy is the Slawa. I think that's how you say it. It's like a little bit of a different word. But I love how this is almost a deep purple black with this cool orange. I'm hinting on that with the orange of my daffodil, and then I'm lightening it up again with just a little bit of a soft yellow hyacinth. You don't have to use all of these bulb mixes. You can actually have fun and do your own thing. Sometimes I will actually just do 3 different daffodils. So I will look at the heights and the bloom times of the daffodils. My tallest daffodil will usually go toward the bottom, then my next tallest daffodil, and then a lot of times I'll come in with more of a miniature daffodil, like Tate or Pipit or Narcissus. There's tons of little guys that you can do. And you'll then have just a bouquet of naturalizing daffodils. Now, one of the reasons I like to do this is because with tulips, they don't come back more than 2 to 5 years on average, but with daffodils, these can naturalize. So again, if you want a field of all mixed daffodils, you could plant different lasagna plants of these and then have that naturalized together. So again, this is a really fun color combo as well. Last but not least, you can also add in some grape hyacinths. Now, if I were to do grape hyacinths in this planter that I've done here, I would bury the hyacinths, and then I would come down about 4 inches to 6 inches, and I would take these grape hyacinths, which you can see are quite a bit of smaller bulb, and I like to put them all the way outside around the base of the hole. 2 reasons I like to do this is grape hyacinths will send their leaves up in the fall. So next fall, when I look to see where I've planted my bulb clumps, I'll actually see the leaves from this grape hyacinth, and then in the spring is when it sends up its flowers. So this is a great tool to mark where you've planted bulbs if you're like me and I'm sort of like a squirrel and I can't remember where I put my nuts. So again, this is a great way to kind of mark where you're planting. And again, these will bloom a little earlier than most of the daffodils, but about the same time, but definitely earlier than the tulips. So this will be something that'll just give it a little pop of color in the beginning to alert you that these plants are coming up. Once I'm done planting this, I'm gonna wanna get a hose or watering can and make sure that I water this in completely. We wanna make sure that the bulbs, especially if you used any extra soils or anything to help build this up, I wanna make sure that this is well watered, and probably once a week if we're not giving any rain, I might give it a little drink to ensure that those roots are going down. A lot of people will ask about bone meal. I really like to use bone meal in the bottom underneath the bulbs. So you could do the bone meal in a little bit in each layer when you're planting. What bone meal does, it has a lot of phosphate, so it actually is gonna help put your roots into fast forward, hopefully. Really give them a little fertilizer so that they can kick in before the winter and the ground starts freezing. Once I've put all the bone meal, I've done my layers, I've watered it in. Many times I'll just come through and I'll plant some really pretty pansies on the top. Now in Michigan, most of the time, if we plant pansies in the fall in the ground and we have good snow cover, these pansies will make it through the winter and these will be blooming again for me in the spring. Now if we have a really harsh winter or it goes extremely cold without a lot of snow, then I find my pansies get a little bit ratty and they tend to die out. But again, this is another great marker for where you've had your bulbs planted, and then of course you're adding in all this fun color, and you can get the pansies in multiple colors and different sizes and things to put in there. So I think this is really, really fun idea. And again, it's not as backbreaking. You're not having to plant a bunch of single holes and plant a bunch of bulbs. You're able to use a little less bulbs and get more bang for your buck. So I hope you enjoyed this today. I hope you can utilize this in your garden. Again, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us at Romence Gardens, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're gonna hopefully keep coming at you with a lot more fun ideas.